All right, guys, so quick update to this video. I was actually in the middle of recording this, and we were starting to get some underdog lines that were coming in where we were getting some decent prop line differences on. Now, that won't change the start of this video. Everything that I'm calling out is still going to be accurate, but just know when I'm referring to us not having underdog lines, that is no longer true, which ends up being pretty darn awesome. So with that, let's go ahead and get into this video. All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Going to be breaking down the top prop bets for the NBA Summer League on Thursday. Now, as I'm recording this video, we are only getting a limited number of prop bets, and they are only going to be on prize picks. So we're going to be concentrating just breaking down the prize pick slate, but just know that the underdog board will come out, okay, eventually, maybe later tonight, probably tomorrow, midday. And when it does, just be ready for that because we can see some pretty big prop line differences when that occurs. And I want to start this video off with showing you guys an example from the previous slate that we ended up having that I shared on the Discord chat that ended up getting bumped basically 5 minutes after I shared it, which was annoying, but that's kind of what does occur in the NBA Summer League because we do get a lot of limited data for the NBA Summer League. And so we do tend to see the sites be a little bit different with the lines that are coming in, which can be pretty huge for us. And so, yeah, two of the better players thus far through like the California Classic portion of the NBA Summer League have been AJ Mitchell, no surprise there, and Jalen Wells, no surprise there. Two players that, if they are getting minutes, are going to continue to do stuff like this. But these are two bets where when we got the underdog lines, I saw these lines on prize picks. I'm like, yeah, these are definitely wrong, right? The lines that we were getting on prize picks, these ended up, this was like 26.5 on underdog. This one was at 26. Okay. So it's just like making the best decision possible based off that information that we have. Again, though, just looking at the board that we have for prize picks, we are getting a limited number of bets for, this slate. As it currently sits, no underdog lines just yet, but I do think we can go through the process of breaking down the slate. Now, guys, let's just do a quick game preview of the 7 games that we have. Okay, so what we're going to notice here is that some of the games are somewhat lower scoring, like the Milwaukee Bucks versus Denver game is. So just get into like a game preview of the slates that we have, or of the games that we have on the slate. What we're going to notice is that all the games are relatively about the same in terms of total points. We have the Bucks Denver game, 173.5. That's the lowest. The highest scoring game on the slate is going to be Cleveland versus Indiana. They are going to be a team that does run out some players that, you know, get some traditional NBA minutes, and I think that's why that game is going to be pretty high scoring on paper. I do start to slightly worry about a little bit of a blowout in the NBA Summer League at 5.5 points, but not really too much there. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and start off here with the Pelicans. So the Pelicans are a team that obviously have some, you know, pretty young players that they just drafted, Queen being one of them and Ferris being one of them as well. Those are the two players that I do expect to get the most minutes. And if you kind of just look at maybe the potential minutes that Derek Queen could end up getting, I think his line that we were getting for 11.5 points is a little bit too low. He's a player that did average 16.5 points in college, okay? So if he ends up getting around 20 to 25 minutes, which is kind of the base projection that I've been using here for the NBA Summer League, for a player that's just going to get a decent amount of run. And if we do that, he should be able to get to around 14.85 points or so, which ends up not being terrible. Some people are going to be inclined to bet on his rebounds. I'd rather do the points. If we're betting on him getting the minutes, we're going to bet on him getting those points. Now, we do have Missy here as well, who is someone that can get some run. Jordan Hawkins is another player that could potentially get a decent amount of run. Now, he is someone that does get more traditional NBA minutes. So the tough part about game one for a lot of these teams that we haven't seen, you know, playing the California Classic, is that we don't necessarily know what their plan is for the G League games. And so for someone like him, to me, I could see him starting, playing 15 minutes, and then getting out there. They kind of know what they have in him as a player. At the same time, he could end up playing 28 minutes, and then that line becomes pretty easy. But for props betting purposes, to me, he's a little bit too risky. And so the two players that I'm going to be most interested in betting on for the Pelicans would be Ferris and Queen. Again, I like Queen a lot for his over points, assuming they does get around these 20 to 25 minutes or so. All right, so now let's go ahead and move on into the Minnesota Timberwolves. What we're going to notice is that we are getting two prop bets for both Terrence Shannon and Rob Dillingham. Both players that did play a little bit for the Timberwolves last year, and both players that, considering their lines, are definitely going to be intriguing for us. The thought process here is, are they kind of trying out for a roster spot for the Timberwolves throughout the season, a significant roster spot, or will the Minnesota Timberwolves potentially bring in a veteran guard? We'll start with taking a peek at Rob Dillingham. He is someone that if he does end up gaining a decent amount of minutes, again, kind of the base expectation for someone, I think if we're trying to bet on the overs, is them to get around 25 minutes. If they do that, he should be able to get over his line of 13.5 points. So if we get confirmation that that's going to occur, I do like that. Now, it is worth calling out, I'm showing you guys his salary for the NBA Summer League slate. The fact that he's priced at 7.5 on DraftKings kind of points to the fact that DraftKings, at least, is valuing him more than someone like Terrence Shannon Jr. Now, Terrence Shannon Jr. to me is more of a natural bucket getter. Okay, he is someone that I would trust more in that department, and it's definitely interesting in terms of like DFS. If you guys are playing on DraftKings, he's priced at 6.3. Right, that should not be happening. So the reason I'm saying that is because we look at Shannon, we see his PRA is at 24.5, and we also see that his points is set at 18.5. So that is basically PrizePicks and DraftKings are having different valuations of those two players. Maybe it's in projected minutes, maybe not. But clearly one of those are wrong, right? And to me, it makes more sense to bet on Dillingham to get over 13.5 points. Then you could pair that up with Derek Queen for over his points there as well. All right, so now we go ahead and move on into the Cleveland versus Indiana game, which again is supposed to be the highest projected scoring game on the slate. And it's also supposed to be a game that is potentially going to be a close game. Now, Craig Porter Jr. is kind of the player that we should be watching the most. I would say that his 13.5 points to me does seem to be a little bit too low. Imani Bates is someone that got a lot of run in the G League for them last year and in the previous year as well. He is no longer there. He's not expected to play. And so that kind of leaves Craig Porter Jr. to be the guy that could get a lot of run. And that ends up being the question is, will Cleveland continue to give these type of players a lot of run? And I think so. The other one would be Jalen Tyson. We would be inclined to bet on maybe his over as well. I would say the line for Tyson at 14.5 points is mostly correct. But if Craig Porter Jr. ends up getting that run that we expect him to get, I could consider both of those being a little bit too low. But both of those already naturally seem to be a little bit too low to me. Okay, we don't always see Craig Porter Jr. play a lot. That could be the concern. Okay, again, I think 20 or so minutes would be a good base projection. So maybe just looking at his game long, maybe he's not something that we get to necessarily as much. We'll take a peek at Tyson, what he did last year, at least in the G League, and we're going to notice that he did get some decent amount of run. We look at the points, 23, 21, 4, 14, 15. That's okay. You would expect those two players, I think, at least to still get that same run, maybe a little bit more run, but maybe it ends up being a stay away. Now we go ahead and jump on into the Pacers. Furphy is an interesting player. I will say he's a player that to me makes a decent amount of sense to get some run here for the Pacers in this NBA Summer League. He did get that a decent amount last year as well. He's going to get some shot attempts. We saw that last year. So that is something that does intrigue me. Now, he's never been someone that's like a huge scorer necessarily, but I think that's part of the Summer League script for him. They want him to go out and try to get some buckets. So I could see why someone would want to bet on his under 14.5 points. Maybe it's someone that we just end up staying away but I do think this is a player that we could potentially get a decent prop line difference on on Underdog and PrizePicks with. So just be on the lookout for that. That could end up being a spot for us. Then the only other players that we are getting profits for are Cam Jones and Jackson. Cam Jones, the player from Marquette, is a player I followed a little bit throughout the college basketball season. I don't really have any sort of expectations for him in terms of minutes. It would make sense for him to get some run, but 10.5 points, that just seems like the correct line. That being said, again, if we want to chase the highest scoring game and do stacks, that is something that does make some logical sense to me. He was a top 10 pick in the NBA draft for Brooklyn, a Russian player that played at BYU last year that ended up having 10.6 points on average, 3.9 rebounds, and 5.5 assists as a freshman. He, to me, is a little bit of a work in progress, but he's obviously someone that they thought could develop into a good prospect for them. And so he is someone that naturally makes sense to get 1 minutes, and then I think we could potentially want to bet on his over like assist if we end up getting a good line, but we're only getting his points as it currently sits. So for the Magic, we're getting 3 players currently as players that we can bet on here for PrizePicks. We got the 25th overall pick, Jace Richardson. Then we also have Noah Penda, the 32nd overall pick as well. 2 players that, given the season that the Magic had and given the investment that the Magic made as well in Desmond Bane, it makes sense for them to get run, right? They kind of need those players, maybe on the back end of their bench, maybe to be two-way players. They're going to want to get good looks at these players. So to me, it does make a decent amount of sense for them to get, 25 minutes or so. Now, neither of them were necessarily great scorers or great rebounders as well. Both of them averaging around 10 points. You look at Jace Richardson, he averaged 12.1 points. Then Jace Richardson for over 9.5 points would end up being a bet that I think we could get to. Now, a player that I do find interesting is Tristan da Silva there, who is someone that if he does end up getting a decent amount of run, he should be one of the better players on the court. So if he ends up getting around 25 minutes, I do think it'll be close, but I do see him gain his overs. So this is another one of those bets where be on the lookout for what the underdog's lines are and just be ready to attack them if there's a prop line difference. So whichever line would be the lowest would be where I'd want to get to the over. But look at what I did last year in the NBA Summer League. Did not play all the games, but played 23 minutes in the first game, then 27, then 30. Did very well in all of those games. And he is someone that is kind of a point per minute producer. Now, when we look at the Kings, we are getting some interesting prop bets for their players. So we got Isaac Jones and Devin Carter, two players that you would expect to get a decent amount of run in this game. And then they do have their 26th overall first-round pick in Clifford as well, the Colorado player. All interesting to me. All players I could see easily getting their overs, assume that they do get a decent amount of run. Now, I do want to talk about Clifford here on DraftKings, just given his pricing. 4.6 is essentially the minimum price for DraftKings, so they're not necessarily expecting him to play a lot or to get a lot of production. That might suggest that we should be betting on his less than 10.5 points here, okay? That, just given that salary, that to me calls out that PrizePicks is currently probably overvaluing him. Now, why are they doing that? He did score a lot in college basketball, about 19 points per game. And so I think the expectation is if he does end up gaining a lot of run, as I kind of expect, then it's probably a good line for him of 10.5 points. Really, I look at that and I see that as a bet that we're probably just staying away from. Now, we are getting some interesting lines again for Carter and Jones. For me, that ends up being a spot that I just want to stay away from. Now, guys, I do want to call it. As I was recording this video, I did just notice we got some underdog lines, which is a little bit surprising to me. I had already dropped in a middle slip to the 9 to 5 Discord chat literally as I was recording this video because we were getting some pretty substantial middles, okay? So it's worth calling out here. We got Danny Wolf right now for either his points of 8.5 for his over, or you could bet his under on underdog. I think I actually like the under a little bit better on underdog there, but that's regardless. Like we should be betting on both sides of that one. But look at his points, rebounds, and assists, guys. This is crazy. 18.5 on underdog, 15.5 on PrizePicks. Okay, so that to me is clearly a spot where we should be betting on both sides of this. Okay, just 3 is massive. You guys know this if you guys have ever played it. That's something you should definitely be trying to do. And we have Fears as well for 12 points, 12.5 points on PrizePicks, 14.5 on underdog. Again, that is something that shouldn't be happening. Those are massive edges there. Run those out as middles. Now, I should call it, I am much more inclined to naturally want to bet on unders in the NBA Summer League just because we don't know what minutes to expect from some players. So definitely interesting there. We see Cooper Flagg, 16.5 points is his line on PrizePicks, 18.5 on underdog. I honestly probably just staying away from that, but wanted to call that out. Good prop line difference. Fears, we have another prop line difference there. Decent. Egler, only one, but obviously at a lower line, that's going to be a big prop line difference there. Derek Queen, this is the one I wanted to call. So I already mentioned I want to be betting on his overs kind of regardless. We see his points, rebounds, and assists here on PrizePicks, 19.5. Okay, I'm fine with that, but obviously we want to be betting the over there on PrizePicks. Underdog, we just don't touch that line. I think 21.5 is actually his correct line, but if you want to get to his over 11.5 points still, that was already going to be on the bet of the day. So I like the fact that that's already bet that I called out to you guys. That's a solid bet, but I think now, given the slight prop line difference here for his points, rebounds, and assists, we want to be betting on that instead. Leonard Miller for Minnesota, another decent edge there. Terrence Shannon Jr., this is one I wanted to call. So we have his points, rebounds, and assists there at 24.5. Okay, fine bet. And then we could also go, just type him in. We also have his points that's off by 1. So it's really up to you guys which one you want to get to. But I think really his 24.5 points, rebounds, assists is a bet that I want to bet the over on there as well. So we are still going to continue this video, but like right now, I think it's a good time to do a bet of the day. So a 4-slip bet here, guys, based off of the prop line differences, is a very solid edge for us as I'm recording this video. So I think that is what we should be looking at. Now, I do suggest running out the middle as well. So we're doing the exact opposite on underdog. So that's going to be the flip side of the bet of the day. But again, just taking advantage of those solid prop line differences that we have right now. Okay. Now, I do really like the idea of Queen. Okay, I think that's still my favorite bet. But fears now, Shannon, definitely happy to get to those. Danny Wolf, given the prop line difference that we're getting, solid. Again, I do like the under bet more on underdog. And I kind of expect them to correct that. We'll see. They might correct it but once I get to the end of the video, I'll go ahead and just double check, see kind of what prop line differences we are getting. But that was my whole point, right? During the middle of the video is that we do get those prop line differences. So pretty awesome there. All right, so now let's jump back into kind of the game by game breakdown. So we do have Dallas versus LA. Now I saw something on X that I just want to double check because it was kind of a crazy post in regards to this game. Yeah, guys, this is per Bleacher Report, okay, where they're saying that the most expensive Summer League ticket is $2,500, okay? Interesting there. And then, yeah, in regards to that, Underdog posted this as well, which I thought was kind of funny. For the same, tickets, you would get, for Finals of Game 1, you get the same spot for almost $550, and then for Summer League in this game, $650. Now, I actually do think that is actually worthwhile to call out. That's not something just fun, because to me, I do kind of read into that and think, okay, we should probably be betting on some overs in this game. I do think, obviously, Cooper Flagg, will he be good to go? Probably. I think we can assume that he's going to be good to go. I actually don't mind the idea of betting on his over points attached to Ryan Nembhard for over his assist there, 4.5. We know in college basketball, Nembhard was a player that was kind of a walking assist. So I do think that those two actually correlate together decently. And again, with Cooper Flagg, where we're getting that prop line difference, I want to be betting on that. I think that ends up being a pretty good spot for us. And then let's just go ahead now, because we are getting underdog. Let's jump into this, guys. So underdog, they are giving us some Bronny James lines, okay? And so again, just going back to that point of this is a game that people are paying a lot of money to see. And so I do think that's part of the NBA. And so my point is, I think Bronny James is actually going to play a decent amount of minutes in this game. And if that ends up occurring, this line of 10.5 to me just seems way too low then for him. Right? I think that's a good expectation to have. And so thus far, through the California Classic, we saw him sit out a game and then not play that many minutes in another game there. So we can't necessarily trust him. But again, I do think he does end up getting a lot of run in this game. And so to me, that line at 10.5, assuming he gets a lot of run, is just too low. Now, it is worth calling out that Dalton Knecht did get going in his last game of the California Classic. Finally shot the basketball well for the most part-ish. He didn't shoot insanely well, but he shot better than what he had the previous few games. And so I really don't mind him as a player we could potentially be on as well, but I think we want to stick to Bronny James if we are trying to bet on the over here. All right, so now let's go ahead and get into another game here. We got the Milwaukee Bucks. My Milwaukee Bucks, I do feel that we are getting some interesting lines from the Milwaukee Bucks, okay? Andre Jackson Jr. is someone that they definitely need to get going. Chris Livingston is someone that I believe is playing on their summer league, but also isn't under contract, so that's kind of interesting there. Because of that, I don't want to bet on Chris Livingston really at all. You got Marquise Noel, where if he does end up getting a lot of run, that 9.5 points is way too low. You know, he is someone that is kind of a walking bucket. So if he ends up getting 25 minutes, that number is just insanely low. So again, guys, going back to what I was saying about when the underdog lines come out, be on the lookout for that, okay? Because if this line is lower than the underdog line, I want to be betting the over there for Noel. Now, I do want to call it that I am kind of cautious about some of these lines. I do think that these three players probably will get run. But also, I kind of expect Mark Sears to get a lot of run as well. He was someone that they've been hyping up a bunch. If you follow Bucks social media at all, which you probably don't, good thing I do that for you guys. They've been hyping him up. They're treating him as like a late round, first round pick. They are excited for him. I think he's kind of a proven commodity as well. Feels a little bit like kind of getting a Malcolm Brogdon, like late in the draft, obviously a former Buck for them, or just a veteran college basketball player that can come in and get minutes and be useful minutes if they need it. But I do think they're going to get a solid look at him. So that's where I don't know if I necessarily want to get to like Noel and some of the other players. Yeah, Boya as well, who is someone that, again, if he gets a lot of minutes, he is someone that can produce as well. They're kind of deep in the sense that they're looking for players that can contribute as, the tail end of the roster there for them. And so I don't necessarily want to be betting on the players that we are currently getting prop bets for. The player that I think probably will have the most impact is going to be Tyler Smith. I think it makes a lot of sense to get minutes. He's someone that can get rebounds as well. He's someone that they are still developing. And so he's probably someone I would want to bet over on, but again, we're not getting that there for them. Now, guys, for Denver, I will say I do like some of the bets that we were getting here for Deron Holmes. Holmes is a second-year player for them that in college was a pretty productive player, both points-wise, rebounds-wise. He's someone you should kind of trust that if he's going to get minutes for us in this game, he is someone that I do really like the over bets that we could potentially be on. Okay, in college, he averaged 20.4 points, 8.5 rebounds, and he is like apparently he's fully recovered from his injury that he had. He should be good to go, but that's the part of it as well. Being banged up, they're probably going to try to get a good look at him, so I do think he's someone that we could expect to get closer to 25 minutes, and if that is right, this is a bet that I love. Okay, this is kind of like Queen, where, again, with like underdog, if Prize Picks is the lower line, I'm probably going to crush this bet. Hopefully I end up right. Okay, we don't always know playing time. That's what we're trying to figure out here, but I think that ends up being a pretty good spot for us. Another interesting play is Hunter Tyson for them, who was drafted in the 2023 draft. So he's kind of a veteran for summer league purposes. He is someone that I think maybe for the first game or second game could get a decent amount of run. And then after that, we're probably not expecting him to get a lot of run there. But he is someone that they can still try to develop here. Okay, he is someone that can be more of a spot up shooter. So they're probably going to try to get him some looks there, which is why when we look at kind of his three-pointers made, that line is at 2.5, right? Let's say he does end up getting three-pointers made, right? Okay. Then this line, 15.5 points, becomes a little bit more interesting, I will say, but it's like pretty crazy to maybe be thinking about a summer league guy to make three-pointers, okay? I'm going to be staying away from him mostly, but again, that ends up being the spot where I think we could end up looking at underdog and maybe be intrigued to place some bets on him. Okay, guys, so now we go ahead and get into the last game, which is going to be San Antonio versus Philly. We got Carter Bryant here, who we know has struggled thus far throughout the California Classic, which was expected. He is getting a lot of run, though, and that has mostly been due to Dylan Harper being injured. Now, I'm assuming that he's still going to be out here for the Spurs, okay? His line, though, on underdog is at 16.5 points. I'd probably want to be betting on the under for that regardless. Like, they probably would still try to limit his minutes regardless if he does end up playing. Maybe they want to get a look. I believe it's a groin or a hamstring injury, so that's not really something you would want to give him a full go on if he does end up playing. So I don't expect him to play, but worth calling that out to you guys. Now, it is worth calling as well with Carter Bryant. Like, this line has come down a decent amount from when we first saw Summer League. I think it was at like 11.5 on Prize Picks. So if he does end up getting run, 8.5 points, again, at 25 minutes, he should be able to do that. He's getting about 8 shot attempts. Like, he should be able to. But that's also not a bet that I think we need to target. VJ Edgecombe is someone that had a thumb injury. He ended up sitting one of the games there as well, maybe 2 of the games for the California Classic. Played in the first game, played really well there. What do we expect from him? Is he going to play again? We don't know. We don't know. This is one where if he does end up playing, we'll see how many minutes he ends up getting. If he ends up sitting, though, Johnny Broom, for over his points, rebounds, and assists, becomes an excellent line here for over 16.5 points. So if you're maybe on the fence, will he play, will he not play? I tend to believe that these younger stars, these rookie draft picks that these teams have a lot of investment in, they're going to be more cautious with them. And so I'm kind of expecting Harper and also Edgecombe to sit. And so with that, we do have 2 players that we could potentially bet on there as well. But assuming the prop line differences that we are continuing to get, maybe not bets that we need to force. Now, it is worth calling out another player where we are currently getting a prop line difference on is David Jones-Garcia. David Jones-Garcia is someone that had a very good game in his last game in the California Classic. That is a bet that I kind of called out to you guys in passing, assuming that Dylan Harper was still going to sit. So if you look at underdog, his line is currently at 23.5 for his points, rebounds, and assist. His points line is at 15.5 as well on underdog. This is another over bet that I like a decent amount here on Prize Picks, assuming that he ends up getting that run. And to me, it does make sense for him to continue to get that run there for the Spurs. So that's another bet that I like a decent amount. All right, guys, so getting to kind of the official bet of the day, still taking advantage of some of those prop line differences that we are getting. But again, I do think the Danny Wolf bet is going to get adjusted, at least on Prize Picks or underdog, one way or the other. So I took him off, okay? I do think there's the potential that some of these bets where we are chasing middles on do not get bumped, hopefully, okay? Again, I do really like Queen and Holmes. These were going to be the 2 bets I recommended. But really, at the end of the day, attacking bets where we're getting a clear edge on one way or the other, right? We know that one of the lines are definitely wrong on Prize Picks or underdog. We're just betting on one of those sports books to be valuing it incorrectly. So I do suggest running out the opposite of these ones on underdog. Maybe you're not getting as much action in on that as possible, but I do like that. Now, if Danny Wolf is still there for his for his points, rebounds, and assists, they're on underdog of 18.5. I think you could pair that up with Bronny James for over 10.5 points. Ends up being a pretty solid bet there as well. Now, that's going to be all for this video, guys. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. If you guys want access to that Prize Picks optimizer, head on over to 9to5sports.com. All you need to do is type in NBA SL to get all the NBA Summer League prop bets where we are getting underdog lines with there as well. It works more as a middling tool, but you guys can also use that tool to get all the best prop bets for Prize Picks. We also have the underdog optimizer as well that does the exact same thing there. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching. Good luck with all your bets. Hopefully it's a good NBA Summer League. It is worth calling out. NBA Summer League, I do see it more as fun. This is a fun thing for me to do. This is something I actually truly consider to be gambling, whereas, what the other stuff that I do is more of a long-term profitable approach, but that's also kind of what makes it fun here. Again, guys, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, comment maybe your guys' favorite prop bet there as well. Thanks for watching. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.